and go back and take a look at it. So welcome all. My name is Amy Forrest. I am a consultant with the Jackson Collaborative Network. Thrilled that you all were able to join me this week. I know it's a week for many on vacation, including Sarah, my coworker, who is not with us today. So we're going to jumble through this, but I'm excited that you're all here, and we're going to work and build up with each other. So we'll do quick introductions if you guys wouldn't mind just popping on and introducing yourself and your organization or community member or whatever brought you maybe to the meeting.
I'll start. Welcome everybody. My name is Marcus Gill, and I am the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Officer at the Jackson County Intermediate School District.
Hi, I'm Shannon Jackson. I'm a community member. I also volunteer with Residents in Action.
Morning.
Tashna Thomas, Director of Community Engagement here at Henry Ford Jackson Hospital, and I'm also the chair of our Diversity and Inclusion Committee.
Morning.
Martha York with Region 2 Area Agency on Aging, and I also attend on behalf of being part of the Cross-Cultural Conversations Collaborative as well.
Tom McMillan Oakley from the Student Advocacy Center of Michigan. I'll pop our website into the chat in case you do not know who we are. So there you go.
Thanks, Tom.
I'm Rebecca Calkins, leader of Drug Free Jackson Coalition, as well as the Most Teens Don't program, and a Henry Ford employee.
Good morning. Well, thanks all. So as I said, I'm going to jumble through this. Most of you have attended affinity group meetings in the past, so many of you are very aware of what we're all about and what we do and all that good stuff. But I will. I'm going to breeze through these introduction slides just to kind of catch everyone up and make sure we're all on the same page. Okay, so we are here to talk about community root cause issues with an emphasis on those experiencing inequitable outcomes. So that's really the goal, is to get down to those deep barriers and look to address those in our community. We really work to partner with community members and those experiencing them to explore strategies. We always talk about never wanting to make strategies without input from those that are closest to the problem. Sarah and I are available to all of you to support activities, help work on building strategies, making connections, sharing resources, kind of moving through the process with you. So often in these groups, we get together and we talk about issues that we've seen in our organizations or ways we've addressed issues, which is amazing. But if any of you are getting stuck on an issue, or if you come up with something, we're here to help assist, make connections, all that good stuff. We're hoping that you guys gain knowledge and skills to drive system change, really to get into addressing those deeper things. We're really good at programming, and programming is very effective in getting things to the folks that need it. But we're going to push everyone to kind of get into those deeper things, right? So our moms need formula for their babies, and so programs are really amazing at getting that formula out to community members. But why are our moms not able to get formula in the first place? So we're going to challenge everyone to kind of dig deeper and get to those deeper root causes. And we talked about connections. Certainly want to make sure that those are happening and assist you in doing that. And then relationship building and track and measuring progress. That's the piece where the Jackson Collaborative Network is really reaching out to all of you to say, what are you doing? How are you tracking? How can we align those with our shared measurement system? So many of you are familiar with that measurement system. It feels complex and overwhelming and big, but really it's a way to see the root causes that we talk about in these affinity groups and then align the work. So we know building trust is really important in the community. And we find out that you guys are doing A, B, and C to do that. Well, we can input that, connect that, and show that we are actually making progress around some of these issues. Because if we don't know what you're doing and we're not tracking and measuring how that's happening, we're not able to show that we're making progress. And that's kind of the key to having the collaborative network. Group norms, we always just try to set the table or set the scene with this, is there's pausing before you speak to make sure that your intent is there, paraphrasing. So if I'm not understanding what someone's saying, re-question it. posing questions, no question, there are no wrong questions. We always want to make sure that we're understanding each other and better learning what's going on. Putting ideas on the table, that is the best way to do it. And I know you guys are fantastic at that. When someone comes up with an issue, y'all jump in and be like, well, have you thought about this? Have you tried this? That's really helpful for us. Data, we just talked about tracking and measuring, paying attention to self and others, and presuming positive intention. We know that words are important, and often we jumble up our words. I jumble my words often, but assume that everyone is meaning the best, and if not, ask questions. And we talk about ouch and oops, and if something comes across wrong or ineffective, let's challenge each other to kind of make that better. So moving to action. So this, a lot of times we bump into issues or barriers in the community, and we continue to just talk about them. And this is going to push us to really take action. One of the best ways to do that is create a partner profile. That's part of being part of the network. We don't really have a membership, and it's not kind of a thing, but partner profiles really help Sarah and I and our whole team understand what you guys are doing in the community around system change, and it helps each other. So folks can get on there and be like, oh, I didn't realize Marcos was actually working with data on this particular thing, and update those as you move through your work, because it helps others connect to you. And then we'd love for folks to engage in these discussions, kind of build up each other. Action planning feels complicated again, but action planning is really just working through the steps of taking action. So Sarah and I can assist with doing that. If you guys come up with an issue that you want to address, and you just say, okay, well, we're finding that A, B, and C is an issue in our community. I don't know where to begin or what to do with it, or I have an idea of how to begin. We can kind of sit down and move through that process with you, where we state the issue. We talk about who's most affected by that issue, really look at the data, disaggregate that data so that we know that it's, Black students that live in city limits. Like we'll dig into that data to make sure that we're targeting the right population to kind of address that issue. And then we will encourage you to work with maybe the Black youth that live in the city to help build those strategies, connect you to people that can give input, those that are closest to the problem, to help build strategies. And then we will help work with you on tracking and measuring that progress. And then reporting, that is, a lot of that happens in these meetings where you guys talk about, oh, I tried this, it didn't work. I tried this, it was amazing. This is the progress that we're receiving. This is the feedback we're hearing. Okay, so we talked about partner profiles. That, as I said, helps us get to know. If you guys have not done a partner profile, please jump in and do that. I will attach a link to that in the follow-up, and I think it was in the reminder email. But get on there and encourage coworkers. If you guys have 6 people in your organization, you're likely working on different things in that organization. So it's not per organization, it's per person. So make sure that you're encouraging folks to fill those out, because it's helpful for us to know. Okay, so this is wins. We talked about partner profiles. Wins are something we're really looking to build off of too. It's the things we talk about in this meeting. What we do is we take that issue being addressed, and then we talk about the progress you've made, even if you haven't fixed the issue, obviously, because it's usually a long journey. Let us know. Sarah and I can help build these and put them in. So we've gone through this before, where we've talked about the issue that was being addressed and then the current achievements around that. So sometimes I'm able to translate what we talk about in this meeting into a win, and I'll pop you an email and say, is this what I heard you say? And is this the success? And am I missing anything? And you guys can bump back and say, really, no, it was a little more complicated. It included this, and we can put those in. And again, on our dashboard, we're going to have all the wins that we put in here on issues that were being addressed, and those will show that we're working around being healthy, or achieving our fullest potential, or being safe. So we're tying those in so we can see how those, even the wins, not just the action plans, will tie into our shared root causes. And then again, we can see, wow, we've got 14 people in the community working around this targeted root cause, and this is the progress we're making. Any questions on that? Concerns, difficulties? All right, pretty soon I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to send you guys these slides so that you can go through them, because I know I'm speeding through them pretty quickly. But I know there was a question that popped up this week. are there 3 affinity groups? Is there 1 affinity group? We don't want to meeting you guys out. We don't want you to have to keep coming. So we had 3 groups going, 1 around building trust, 1 around navigating service systems, and 1 about inequitable policies and practices. And rather than meeting 3 different times during the month, we've kind of popped them into here. We see every time how much they overlap. So if navigating service systems is difficult, that lends to lack of trust from community members, and often that can be fixed by looking at policies and practices. So there's lots of overlap in these. This was a little bit of summary of what we've been talking about in the 3 groups. So if you're like, well, I usually go to the building trust group and this, but it's interesting to hear about what's going on in navigating service systems, what have you. We kind of tried to summarize a lot of the work that we've talked about up to this point. It doesn't include everything because these slides were from last month. So if you came last month and talked about things, they may not be in here, but you can kind of go through, we're combining these into one. So y'all might be from different ones, but we know that it overlaps and ultimately affects, the big thing is inequitable outcomes really for populations in our community. So we'll send those and you can kind of go through them. And here is where I am going to stop talking and hopefully you guys will start talking. I'm going to pop a Padlet. I know Sarah always brings these up into the chat. So some folks like to work directly on the Padlet, which you're welcome to do. You'll see the link in the chat. You can click on that. It can open it up in your own browser and you can type in the type of things that you're working with. Or I can try to share screen and take notes on what you're working with. And if I don't capture them all, I'll go back through and try to combine the notes because I'm not the best. So let me see. Share screen again. Can figure this out. And click on my own link and get there. I'm going to figure this out. Give me 1 more minute. Okay, did that work?
We can see the screen. I don't know how to type on it.
Okay, no problem, because I can try to type on there. It'll be messy to begin with. So I'm going to jumble through it, but I can try to type in there or you all can enter your own. So at this point, we're going to be talking about, it says what strategies are you working on, but if you see the small print or what do you hope to work on? So if you guys are doing work or you want to be doing work, I'm going to pass it over to you guys to kind of talk about the work you're doing. If it falls under one of these particular root causes, great. Like if it's about navigating service systems or inequitable policies, you can feel free to put it under that. We can put it onto that column, or if it's just work that you want to talk about, we can put it there too.
I'm happy to start. I know I mentioned last month or last time we got together about how, thanks to Rebecca, I got invited to join the Pride Committee, the program committee, and because I just really wanted to start pairing efforts so that we could be seen as a more affirming organization for the LGBTQ plus population. And so as a result of that, we've been working on enhancing our friendly reassurance program to have a designated volunteer who will make calls that we know is going to be an affirming person. And so we're working on some of those strategies. We've also been, so that's a building trust thing, right? Getting someone who is the volunteer who is designated, who is affirming. I'm also in conversation with the Veterans Administration about having a veteran be on our friendly reassurance caller volunteer list as well. So again, I think the veterans typically feel like a sort of an alienated population in our community. And so if we could have a veteran who was one of our trained friendly reassurance callers, then that could be a nice resource for the community that just builds trust for that.
That's
And we've
amazing.
also been modifying our wording on some of our demographic forms, our intake forms. I took a SAGE training from Metro Detroit, and they had some wonderful examples of ways to ask gender and sexual orientation kinds of questions in a way that was just much more approachable and less callous, and will kind of just show that your organization is one that's really making efforts to be inclusive. I really
Awesome.
recommend those trainings if anybody has an opportunity to take those. I think the SAGE trainings were really good.
It's, I was gonna ask, it's SAGE training, SAGE?
SAGE of Metro Detroit, I believe, Rebecca, is that right? SAGE of Metro Detroit.
LGBT, older adults.
I missed the beginning of that, Rebecca. What was it?
It's an organization for LGBT older adults.
Excellent. And I'm assuming, Rebecca, that you've actually done that too?
I actually haven't done the training yet,
Oh.
but I'm familiar with it.
Excellent. Well, as you folks can see, I stopped sharing because I don't know how to add to it. I don't know if it's not allowing me to hit the plus button, but Sarah created it and then she left town. So I am taking notes. I'm just taking them on a separate document.
So services and advocacy for gay elders.
All right, perfect.
There's always an acronym.
And you guys have found, so Martha, the key to that really was about language and your kind of intake forms and things like that, about sexual orientation, gender, things like that.
Yeah, that's one thing that we're doing. We were also, I've been talking with our DEI committee about having something right up front on our webpage that shows that we're an affirming organization. Maybe some of the graphics that the SAGE group offers, we can add to our website just so that it's identifiable as being affirming. I think that's helpful. And it is interesting. I mentioned last month how our organization has such a commitment to trying to help address some of the challenges, politically and personally in our community with such stratification that we haven't required implicit bias training for our advisory council and our board members. And we're getting some pushback on that. People, I know mandatory doesn't always work, but I think that the message that we're trying to send as an organization is that this is important to us. We want to emphasize this. We're not going to back down just because you're not in favor of it. If you've served your time with us as a volunteer on our advisory board and you're not on board with that, thank you for your time and you're welcome to move on. But this is what we want. And this is how we're approaching it. Like, we're standing our ground on that, and it's important.
I think that's awesome, Martha.
Thanks, Marcus. Yeah, it's interesting. It always floors me because to me, it's such a given. It's so natural, right? And it's stuff that I do every day and is important to me. And it floors me when someone, tries to say, well, your implicit bias training is racist. It's like, wow, did you hear anything in that training, right? It's just a whole, everybody thinks someone's anti-white if we ask you to attend an implicit bias training, which is, it's harsh, but it's so real. We have such stratification in our community and in our organization's board members. Like, it's just painful, but we're proceeding.
I was just going to ask about the specific pushback that you're getting. So comments that it's biased or anti-white.
Yeah,
Interesting.
it is. Because I took the training and I thought it was very gentle and informative. It was a specialist from Grand Rapids Chamber of Commerce that we hired to come as an outside organization to help us with this, because we've done the cross-cultural conversations workshops and things like that for our organization, but this was bringing in someone else with their expertise. And I thought he had just a very informative and helpful approach to just saying everybody has implicit biases, right? Everybody does. And
Everybody.
just
Like it or
everybody.
not. Yep. Own it.
And it's not all about race, let's educate you on what it is, and just his examples about inequities, about minority women's pregnancies and some of the statistics that are so clear about how the medical treatment and the outcomes for someone who is a minority person who's pregnant are different than someone in the privileged communities. So, just it was just factual, right? It's stuff you can't really argue with, and it's not racist in the way that it was presented, but it's such an uninformed mind that hears it as racist and sticks their heels in the mud and says, this is what it is, and you are all that. And it's just changing mindsets, right? It's so freaking hard. So freaking hard.
It's so hard, and that's almost 100% of what we do in this work is to try to change mindsets. And the problem and the reason that people give that pushback, Martha, is because it makes them feel uncomfortable. Yeah. And people don't like being uncomfortable.
Right.
But, it's important. It's so important that we got to have it that who cares if they're uncomfortable? People need to start getting comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Right. Oh my gosh, it was so interesting. I was leading a statewide collaborative with area agencies on aging this morning, and I was proposing that we modify some of our ways that we phrase our questions about gender identity and sexual orientation, showing them the samples from this SAGE group, right? And it's just, it was just simply, instead of what is your gender or what is your sexual orientation, saying, do you identify with the LGBT population? If so, how would you name that? Like just giving them the opportunity to word it. Well, I had a woman in the group go, why do you care who people are sleeping with? Right. I see you cover your faces, right? And God bless her for at least speaking her truth, right? That she feels like that's too personal. That's none of your business. And so just to say, well, we're trying to make sure that we're reaching all the populations and we're being inclusive and doing it in a way that's sensitive and affirming. And, I try to practice my own rebuttals on those comments, right? Because it's so out there. It's so common.
Kudos to you for not like burst out laughing, but and it's interesting how she spun that to be like invading your privacy versus like adapting the way we're interacting with folks based on where they're coming from, right? It's for, like you said, like it's about inclusivity, but it is so much more than that. It is about like adjusting our practices, our policies, the things that we're doing to make sure that everyone has access. You know what I mean? It's not, it's great to make folks feel included, but it's got to go that step further to make sure that the way we're practicing, preaching, and delivering services is appropriate for all. So, yeah.
And affirming, right? We want to be supportive and show people that you're valued exactly as you are, who you are exactly.
Yeah, you got to
jump in on that. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Marcus.
All I was gonna say is you got to ask those questions because you want to identify people the way they want to be identified.
Yeah.
As well, it's not about who they're sleeping with. That's funny though.
Yeah, right.
That's a defense thing. They like can shut you down by spinning that in. Sorry, go ahead, Tom.
Oh, well, I don't know if you saw the tweet that several people have mocked Vice President Harris at a disabilities event, introduced herself. And we do this at our staff meetings at the Advocacy Center. My name is Tom. I'm a cis male. I have facial hair. I'm wearing a gray shirt. My pronouns are he, him. And everybody was mocking her. And it's like, if somebody is visually impaired, they need that. They want to know who is in on this call. And I think this might be, I can find the wording from what we use in our meetings, but I think it's something speaking from the eye, might be good to adopt with this group as well, because we don't know who's on the call.
That's so true. Thank you, Tom.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that feedback for sure. Tom, you said you'd share that. If you pop that, were you able to share kind of the introduction language?
It's going to be a minute to find
Yeah,
it.
no, I mean, it can
I've
be
got two
tomorrow
screens
or
going
next
on
week.
here.
No, it's all good. Clearly, I'm not navigating mine as well either. So
Can I, if I want to focus on the meeting, but if
yep,
I
at
just
another
email
point.
it to
Yep,
you?
that would be
All
great.
right.
I just love the disability work, everything that the disabled group advocates have done, we've all benefited from. automated doors, ramps, hands-free phones. Those are things we all use. They seemed special at the time, but I just love what that does for us all.
Yeah, we just read an article called "The Curbside Effect," and it talked about how when they first started cutting the curbs to put like the the ramp part on the curb, how people were so against it, and now it literally helps everybody. People with strollers, and it helps everybody.
Right.
Which I love that you guys brought that up, because we talk about targeted universalism and we talk about targeting particular populations, and people get all squirmy when it's like, well, I'm gonna use the cliche, all lives matter. It's like, no, 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 no. If you target a particular population and you provide services for that particular population, everyone benefits. So everyone's like, oh, it's gonna take things from me and give it to that, group in the community. And that is not the case. If we target on making that group in the community better, we all benefit, right? So I love that you pointed that out, just in like happenstance, but it is like a theory, and it is proven to be effective when you talk about targeted universalism. We don't have to lose something in order to get another group in our community to gain. We all win. It's a win-win.
But I think, the stakes are high for certain groups, because what they hear is favoritism, because that's what we have. I mean,
Yes.
those defensive responses are expectations. I mean, they're shocking and surprising. I try not to be surprised, expect it. That's what defending things are going to do. And when the stakes are really high, because for certain people they don't understand what will be. Will I lose in this future world? That's a big ask for people. I think the injury of racism to white people is really not looked at. They could probably, the soul destruction is beyond, I can't imagine. But so, yeah, I just, the work it's messy, but it's interesting.
All right. We're going to try to
Put
keep
the
this.
link in chat. Oh, sorry to.
No, thank you, Tom. I appreciate that. We're going to try to keep moving, because we want to keep you guys to an hour so we don't take up too much of your day. Does anyone, Martha, thank you for sharing about kind of the advances you guys have made and some of the resources. We really appreciate that. Does anyone else doing work in the community around navigating service systems, building trust, and equitable policies that you guys want to share out about? And it can be a success, or it can be like we keep running into the same darn problem in our organization. What do we got?
I'll just tell you what we're focusing on over here at the ISD. I've been working on it for a while, and we're continuing to work on it. Is that we're shoring up our hiring process just to make sure that it's equitable, and we're trying to implement it across the organization so it can be consistent. And we started our job description committee that we're reviewing all of our job descriptions to look at them from an equity lens. And there was one more thing that slipped my mind, but when I remember it, I'll let y'all know too. But those are some of the one of the biggest things that I'm going to be focusing on in my role this year is our staff recruitment, and just really diving into trying to get our pools more diverse in terms of getting applications.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the hiring process and what kind of things you're encountering that are inequitable at all? Or I don't want to put you on the spot, but I just kind of want to hear a little bit more about, looking at the job descriptions, or looking at and what is bubbling up that seems maybe inequitable that folks can learn from in their own orgs.
All right. So when we started out looking at job descriptions, a lot of times there's so much stuff in job descriptions that doesn't necessarily need to be there. So we're trying to, omit things that don't need to be in our job descriptions. And we're also trying to make the language where it's easier to read for people. We're trying to just remove all barriers possible that will prevent people from applying. So that's what we're trying to do in our job descriptions. In terms of our hiring process, we looked at it from top to bottom. So we started out with we have a document, a rubric that our staff can look at before they even start reviewing applications. And, so when they're picking people out of the application pool, and then when they do pick those people out of the applications, got your hand up, Martha?
Tashna has to cut out for another meeting,
Oh,
so
Tashna,
she's
see you
waving.
later.
goodbye.
Bye, everybody.
All right.
Sorry about that, Marcus. I apologize.
No, that's all right. See you later, Tashna.
Thanks for
Bye.
coming.
And then we have, we didn't create, we have a document called Bias-Free Hiring, where all of our people on our interview committee, so we want our interview committees to make sure that our interview committees are diverse, make sure that we have some of the people that we're serving on the interview committees. And then we have a bias-free hiring document that the hiring manager has to get to everybody on the committee and make sure that they review it and have a conversation about it. And then we have some questions that we ask ourselves in a debriefing process to help mitigate bias as well. So just making sure that we're aware of our bias and make sure that we're doing the best that we can to mitigate our bias. Because one of the things that I've seen is by sitting in on our interview processes, I try to sit in on as many as I can, be on as many interview committees as I can, and they're all different. But just the amount of bias that you see in a debriefing process is crazy. So I don't know if y'all have been on any interview committees, but when you sit around and then you talk about the candidates, what people think about them, that bias comes out like crazy, so I'm trying to make sure that we are mitigating that bias as much as possible and getting the right information, because at the end of the day, it's going to be the hiring manager's decision, but your hiring manager are influenced by people that's on that committee and what they're saying, and we're trying to make sure that their bias is not influencing these decisions. So those are big things that we're trying to do with our hiring process.
Marcus, that is intense. That is great. Do you have like a step-by-step of all that stuff that you just laid out so clearly? Because that's phenomenal.
I have a folder with I have most of the documents. I can send them over to you.
Okay. I mean, I know we looked at ours and a lot of times there's must be able to lift to 10 pounds. And it's like, why is that in this job description? Right. It just doesn't make any sense. So things like that, but the committee and gosh, that's huge. Good on you.
Yeah, so some of it, we don't know all of the legal terms. So what I did was I made sure that nobody legal was on our committee. We just want to go through and make it red on what we think that should be changed. And then we'll take it to our director of our HR who, make sure all the legal jargon is right. But yeah, we're just trying to make them more equitable.
How many open teaching positions are there in Jackson County? I'm kind of scared of that number, but do you happen to know that information?
I don't. I just know what we have here at the ISD. I don't know about the rest of the county.
All right. I saw a kind of scary article in the Free Press that said there were over 800 openings in, I think it was Wayne and Oakland County alone.
Yes, everywhere that is looking for teachers. There's a high demand. There's so many educators leaving the field of education as well.
Yeah, this year is going to be bonkers. So, as you may or may not know, if I don't want to, are you done talking about? I don't want to step on your.
Oh no, I'm good. Go.
Okay, good. So I've been in this job full time now since May. So I think where I would fit in is building trust. I went through the erase training back in May. I don't know how many of you all have done that. One of the things that we're working on here in Jackson.
Oh, Tom, you just muted.
Sorry, I hit my space bar. Curse my fat thumbs. One of the things we're working on is building trust in the organization. And what was framed to me, as a white male going into the different communities in Jackson, the presenter said, there's someone who's an ally, there's somebody who's an advocate, but she said you also need to use your privilege and become an accomplice. And I'm like, I want that on a t-shirt that says I'm an accomplice and we will do what we need to do, because the system is not healthy here in Jackson. especially for the minority families. And we're working to try and get our name out there. We're working to show visibility and help out. So I guess you could put us under building trust. I don't know if that's
That's
so.
amazing. Are you, so I loved that. I want a t-shirt too. Have you started kind of looking at how that's going to happen?
Yes, I've had meetings with partners all over the city trying to get us on the different transportation, well, the very few transportation lines in Jackson. Areas, going up to the Meyer Branch Library, up by or off of Springport Road, closer to the affordable housing, going to the King Center, doing office hours there, collaborating with the library, putting two resources together, having office hours at the King Center with the bookmobile there, have some different things going on to just show the community that there are organizations out there that are willing to help.
And when you talked about Jackson County being in a bad spot around that, who are you hearing from? Are you getting voices? Are you like hearing from those that are most affected?
Well,
Or is it your observation? Sorry, yeah.
It's a little bit of both. You look at Jackson on a map, with West Ave going, north and south, and Michigan Ave going east and west. You look at where the resources are. They are in predominantly white neighborhoods. And the hospital is a shining beacon on the upper east side of Jackson. But trying to get resources equitably distributed through Jackson, that's kind of what I'm looking at.
Tell me, and I don't know as much about your organization. I probably should, so I apologize. But when you're talking about resources and transportation, is there a particular focus on those?
Well, we want to go where people can find us. If we're sitting in my office, which is at Calvary United Methodist Church, which is not on a bus line, no one's going to find me.
Mhm.
So we want to go where people can find me and have access to what we do, offering support for special needs students, and, if there's discipline issues, getting a kiddo back in school, or, making sure they have access to their education.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, because I love that. I think your efforts are amazing, kind of showing up where they are and getting to the King Center and looking at resourced areas in the community. I just love to hear about the solutions being built by the students that have needed those kind of resources, right? So I'm sure you've done work with students that have needed, special needs students, or kids that have been kicked out or need to get back enrolled. What do they say about what would be the best approach?
I'm still new.
I told you I'm going to be challenging people, pushing people, like, just because I know that I sit in my ivory tower and making assumptions about what people need in the community based on
Yeah.
nothing, right? So I'm always going to push people to say, talk to the students, right? So
Yeah.
if you decide that it's going to be best to build a bus line to Main Street, and folks are like, that's not the issue, we need to get a cover over the bus, stop on my street so that I don't have to stand in the rain, whatever. I'm
Right.
just always going to push to.
Well, and Dialara, I just murdered her last name. She is the community outreach and the DEI person for the library. And she is amazing. She and I had about an hour and a half meeting a couple weeks ago, and we just exhausted each other. We're like, there's so much work,
Yeah.
Helping students feel welcome at the library. That's something that they're working on. The library downtown looks like a courthouse. It looks very imposing. Do people feel welcome there? And so flipping the script And, you know, if it means taking resources to where folks are and not expecting them to just magically show up at the Carnegie branch, you know, there we go. And, you know, what do they want? What, you know, a librarian's going to pick books, but if they keep going back and not being checked out, then they're missing an opportunity. And, you know, with us, my age range with my current client list in Jackson goes, you know, from pre-kindergarten to high school. So, you know, I'm just getting to know them. I guess I'll report back next
Next
in a
month.
couple of months.
No, next month. Get it done. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay.
No, I love it. Thank you. I love, Tom. I think that you're on the right track in taking the resources to folks. And we hear that time and time again. Don't expect us to come to you. You got to get out to us. And that is also about building relationships. Right. They know that you're willing to show up where they are. They know that you're willing to take the time. They know that you're looking out for them. You know, it's inclusiveness, it's acknowledging barriers. So that's amazing. I love what you're doing.
Thank you.
Okay. How about, does anyone else have any updates they want to share? Things that their barriers are coming up against?
Okay, I'm Shannon Jackson. I don't know if I said my name. And I just learned that the space bar mutes your Zoom call. Thank you, Tom. And unmutes it. Awesome. Okay. I work for Residents in Action. It's a volunteer position, but I'm a social work and a bureaucrat, and I've worked for very large budgeted organizations, and have always I'm biracial, so I always have to tell people that because of my complexion. And my dad's black, my mom's white. I've grown up in Jackson, lived on the south side. My family lives on the south side. So in any case, I came to this work. Race issues have always been interesting to me, and I did a lot of conflict resolution work between historically oppositional groups. So you bring them together and hash it out in a nice safe room. And so that was, I found that it was very rewarding work, and usually people left. Transformed relationships seems to be the biggest way to change people, I have found. But we got to do faster than that, because you can't go hug everybody and meet everybody. So I guess the work that we're doing now that is trying to resource the work. You know, I'm older now. I used to think that I needed to have the answers, but there are people that have the answers, and I'm ready to just let them do it. Because I can't read, and I mean, I've read a lot of books, and I do read books, but me being the source of the solution is kind of just over for me a little bit. So I'm out there finding people who really are already doing that. And usually that means people of color who aren't getting paid. So my task, I've just kind of thought, is getting them paid. It's not about learning from them or having them come to my terms. It's just getting them paid to do the work that they have done for years and do so well. So that really works for me right now. It's a challenge. It requires some persuading of certain people, but I think I like it. Like I said, I am a social worker by nature and profession, and I've been in large organizations, and I'm very happy to be free from the need to sustain that organization. I mean, I don't have health insurance, but I'm very happy that I don't have to live for an organization right now. So I just take that. That may change. I hope it does, but for right now, that's kind of the nature of my work. So it's been really great. Only done it for about 2 years now. And so, yeah, I guess that's it. I don't know what else to add. I'm excited to be here.
No, that's
great.
amazing. I love that, because you are absolutely right. The people with the solutions are the ones that have been doing this for years, know best how to do it, and aren't getting paid for it. And so building those relationships with folks in the community that are doing it is going to be the best way that folks sitting in those large organizations can kind of make those changes. Are you looking at grant funding and things like that? Or are you looking to connect them with jobs, or how are you looking
No,
to?
it's grant funded. Grants are, I think, and I've been in the grant acquisition area for a while, and they're moving back to services. It allows a certain agility that or that organization creation doesn't, because usually the plan you start with is the plan that changes, and organizations really are hard at changing. They'll add, they never take away, never. I'm like, oh my God, can we eliminate something? But they always add. So additive thinking is burnout city. And so we get to like scrap stuff and be like, oh yeah, no, we're doing it this way now. We just let it go. It was a great idea. We thought we were smart. We weren't. So that is great. And grants allow you to do that with, but I also I've got my master's in evaluation and data. So you have to be clear about what you're doing. You're not just flailing, but so I understand the challenges of that too, in counting your successes and all that. But yeah, grants is what we're working on, and the funders are I feel are on that edge of change. Foundations they're pushing that.
Yeah, they really are. It used to be that they only paid for the services provided or the widgets, or they didn't do folks that were doing the work. That was never usually part of the funding. And they're realizing that you're not going to get the right folks with the qualifications to do the work unless you actually pay for the administrative side of it.
Yeah, and they do need to see results. I mean, they're a good story is good, but you do have to say it works. And I have found, because I do evaluation and I have to report, results, and it's working so far.
The results don't always come from the numbers.
In the terms that they use, and the terms that they need those numbers. I just think, I don't know if it has to do with us all being graded when we grew up, why we love money. Maybe that's why we like numbers. I don't know. But numbers really get people going. They love it. So that's what I do. And it's really easy to do because it's all right there. It's really not, you don't really have to build much when it's kind of already built for you. When you go to people who have built it and are doing it. So yeah.
Awesome.
Yep.
Good stuff. You've got the right lens in doing this work, and that's sometimes tough to have. Martha, I see that you are actually, everyone's probably going to check out. Rebecca, I just wanted to give you a chance to update if you have any.
Not a whole lot. Just on the cross-cultural conversations, that was our special presentation for Drug-Free-Jackson Coalition last month. And so we're looking at maybe doing the full presentation for Drug-Free-Jackson members. So that's really all that we've done.
An abridged version or whatever, or just?
Yeah, she did about half an hour. We did a little one breakout talking about our childhood and stuff like that. So.
And you're going to do the full session. Is it, Martha, is it 2 hours?
It's actually a 4-hour.
Oh.
Yeah. And so you can either do it as 1 4-hour, or you can do, we do some 2 hours. So yeah, and it was Marie who just kind of gave an overview to, excuse me, Jackson.
Yep. And so I had a little survey afterwards, and only 2 people told me, and we're 50-50 on the 2 to 2 or the 4 at one time. So
I'll take
just decide.
Go with percentages, not numbers.
Yes. So
that's awesome. Yeah. Sometimes they need a nudge.
Yep.
That's amazing. And who all was it was the board, did you say?
Drug-Free-Jackson Coalition.
The whole coalition. Okay.
Yep. So that's
all right.
Progress, little progress, but
hey, baby steps, right? Was it received well?
Yes, they really liked it, and they were really enthusiastic in the tech, in the messages.
That's awesome. So glad that they didn't say it was racist.
Right.
It's very refreshing when it is well received, because it's critical, and so that's amazing.
Yeah.
All right, well, I'm seeing that that lots of folks have to jump off, so I'm gonna wrap up a couple minutes early, so I don't take too much time. Any other thoughts, concerns, issues, words of wisdom? Moving forward, all right, I had more slides. When you guys see the slides come up, there'll be some slides around looking at doing some emergent issues where we're coming together around things that are happening in Jackson. People are missing the connections. They love this affinity group work, but that would be more topic based, right? So like Marcus talked about hiring practices, we might be able to bring folks in and around that. I want your guys' input on how we decide on that topic. If we're going to do that, it will be in addition to these affinity groups, but it might be an opportunity to come together and just kind of brainstorm around one topic and then take it and fix it. But so if you see those slides come up, that is kind of the intent of that. If you've got feedback on what that might look like, how it might benefit you or what would make it valuable for you. And if you have ideas on how we're going to garner these topic kind of things, let me know. Community assessment data is coming out soon. So we're going to have a ton of community data. We're looking at probably mid-September. And that will give us kind of that kickoff point on so many things that we can look at addressing in the community. So be on the lookout for that too. And have a fantastic rest of the week. I'm declaring it officially the weekend because it's Thursday and it's almost noon. But yeah, thank you guys for joining, and feel free to reach out with questions, concerns, issues. Sarah and I are always available. Well, she will be next week, but and we appreciate you guys. So thank you and have a great rest of your day.
Hi, everybody.
Thanks all.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.